Greetings, YouTube. There's a job at work that I do on a regular basis. It's what we call a daily runner because it runs every day. I know it's the original concept there. So I usually run it twice a week, and it's two different parts, a total of 6 pieces per cycle, and you've got about, I don't know, 70, 75 seconds to get all 6 done. And 4 of them I have a really hard time trimming, and I mean a really hard time trimming. I use a method, and I freely admit my method is not fast, but it is the least painful method I have found to trim these parts. And I say least painful because there is no trimming method for me on these parts that doesn't cause pain. There are faster methods, and most of my coworkers use some variety of them. There's a number of different ways to do the parts. And I've emulated those methods and just caused myself even more pain. So I stopped using them. And that's why I've evolved the process that I'd use now, because it's the least painful. But it is slow. I freely admit it's slow. This means that if everything trims well, all 6 parts trim well, I can get 6 pieces inspected in my time, but I have no time after that. If I'm on the 6th piece, the press behind me is starting to open. I can hear it. And if they don't trim well, I can't get all 6 pieces done. So I put a piece aside, or sometimes even 2 pieces aside, that some other poor person is going to have to inspect later, because I can't keep up. Now the problem is every time this happens, I tend to chant in my head the words can't and don't. I just said it now, and I didn't want to. And I said it without thinking about it. It was unconscious. It just came naturally. Why? Because those negative, anxious pathways in my brain are old and well worn and fast as lightning. So every time I'm running these parts and I hear the can't and don't in my head, I try to stop myself as soon as possible. I don't always succeed to finish. I can't always stop it before the word finishes. But as soon as I can, I stop. And I say to myself, you're doing the best you can. This means I say that phrase a lot. Because, again, about every 70 or 75 seconds, I have to go through this whole stressful, frustrating process again. Hundreds and hundreds of times a day. It is not fun at all. And the reality is after working in manufacturing for 33 years and having processed hundreds of thousands of pieces in my career, I guess that's what you want to call it, I suffer from a lot of repetitive motion injuries. There isn't a day I don't leave in pain. My back, my shoulders, but mostly my hands, and my thumbs in particular. Because that's what you trim parts with, your hands. So every cycle, I'm not keeping up with this. Every time I have to put a part aside, or sometimes even 2 pieces aside because something went wrong, because something didn't trim well, I've got that anxiety button being pushed in my head. Heck, it's more like a gong. Doom, doom, over and over and over again. So I'm trying to counter it. I'm trying to drown out that gong. I'm trying to stop that gong before the striker ever swings. So it's a whole lot of you're doing the best you can. And it's not easy. But you're doing the best you can is a significantly superior statement to you can't do this, or you don't have what it takes to keep up. My goal is to eradicate those old pathways. And when I say eradicate those old pathways, I'm not being metaphorical. You actually have synaptic pathways in your brain when it comes to depression. They exist as physical objects. It's one of the reasons when people are diagnosed with depression for the first time, and say it's their first major episode, they're given antidepressants as soon as possible, because that helps prevent the creation of those synaptic pathways. Mine have had decades to form. 45, 50 years to form. And I've just been fighting them for the last 5 years or so. Seriously. I did some improvement on my own, but never enough. Because I didn't have the right kind of person to help me, the right kind of mentor. And that's how I'm viewing my therapist, Stephen. He's a mentor. He doesn't fix me. He helps me learn what I need to learn to correct the pathways in my brain. So, doing the best that I can.